Can you all believe it? Next week is the final episode of ReZero. It's gonna be really sad to see this series go. I'm not even kidding. It's gonna be really sad. I really enjoyed this series, and I dare say that's probably my favorite anime so far I've watched from this year of 2016. It's gonna be sad to actually see it end next week. It's all coming to an end. I wanted to bet because of the sales and all that, it will eventually get a season 2, but as I've stated many times in the past, it probably won't get one for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. So it's sad, but as always, all good things must come to an end. Just sad it's ending so soon. Just 1 week. Next week, it's all over. Final episode. Anyways, with that being pushed aside, this episode, I gotta say, had some very funny moments in it that I just couldn't stop laughing. And there was some very, very funny things. And some of you Chibits were just straight up with no chill. No chill at all. I was sent many pictures, okay, on Twitter, which I retweeted. You can check my Twitter if you want to see. I might have them on the screen, too, for you on this video. But there was some funny scene in this episode that was made fun of. And it was when Beetlejuice was flying through the sky. This man legit was flying through the freaking sky with his, unseen hands. And I was laughing when I watched the episode. Like, I was straight up just laughing. The man looked just so stupid. Like, he's curled up, but boy, he's flying through the freaking sky. Like, this man is flying through the sky and all that. His face just looks so funny. And when you have it where everybody's looking at him like, what the fuck? That looks so creepy and all that. It looks just so weird. And then I was laughing, okay? Like, I was laughing my ass off at that scene when I finished the episode and all that. I went back to watch it. Now, I went on Twitter and all that, and then a couple of Chibits started posting me pictures, like, just showing me pictures of memes to this scene, and I saw one that was just so fucked up. Like, there was one with Gohan flying and all that, and you just see it where Gohan's looking to the left, and you see Beetlejuice flying through the freaking sky. It is so good. It is so freaking good. And then someone was doing an Aladdin reference, like, I can show you the world. That shit is so good. It's so good. Like, it's so savage and so good. It was probably one of the funniest scenes of this episode, just because of how much meme material you can make from that scene alone. Just Beetlejuice just, like, looks like he's shivering and his brain is trembling up there in the sky as he's just using his hand to move. I'm like, how is he even doing that in the first place? Like, how is this man even moving through the sky? But fuck it, I'm not gonna ask questions. Let's make some memes on this shit. So, very funny stuff. I had a good laugh, and I just wanted to instantly say, anyone that made memes to this scene, you're funny. It's pretty funny. I gotta admit, you get me a good laugh. I had a very good laugh. Thank you so much for everyone that made pictures of that and sent me pictures on Twitter to that scene. That's pretty freaking funny. Okay, now getting off of that, getting into another funny note. We have a scene to where, once again, as always, I've been doing it for the past 2 weeks now, once again, Subaru triggers my boy Beetlejuice. Like, my boy Subaru, I talked about this last week. I talked about this. Like, my boy, you get your body freaking possessed, okay? Your body got possessed. And you know what? That was karma. That was freaking karma. You're triggering this poor man Beetlejuice. I've talked about it. And then Subaru goes even further in this freaking episode to trigger this man. Like, yo, that's even crueler. That's even crueler than saying use the gospel as a coaster. It's even crueler than what you did last week, making fun of his, like, brain trembling. It's crueler than that. Subaru, straight up, this man just gave this man the biggest middle finger you could possibly ever give to a man. And it's the worst middle finger you could ever give to a man. Like, let me just dive into how awful, how fucked up that was what Subaru did to this man. So, as we all know, since the introduction of Beetlejuice, we know he's fucking crazy. Yes, he's a cool character though. Oh, hell yeah, he's one of my favorite characters. He's just so cool. And we know how much he loves Sato. He loves the witch. He loves her so much. He's like, love, 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 truly slothful, love, love, love. He's always saying that stuff. I mean, he got into Subaru's body last week. He's like, love, 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 and all that's so freaking funny. But, like, the way it looked, it was creepy too, but it looked funny. So, we know how much this man loves the witch. Well, Subaru, in this episode, okay? This man straight up says, oh, I get to have private talks with the witch Satala all the time. This man's acting all shady as hell. He's just smiling. She's like, I get to have talks with her all the time. And Beetlejuice is like, what? Like, you're not telling me you're having intimate talks with the witch? Like, no, you don't have it with my love. And just the way Superstar, he has like all these conversation talks. He can see her anytime he wants. Beetlejuice got so fucking pissed, dude. This man just started flying for this guy. Just like, ugh. It's so good. It's so funny. But my boy Subaru, you keep triggering this, man. You need to stop. You need to stop. I've talked about this already now. This is the third week. Every single week you come back or you have a conversation with this man, you trigger him. Like, my boy, please, my boy, give this man a break, okay? I mean, yes, I know he's been through some shit and all that. I mean, I know he's done some shit to you, but holy hell, like, that's some cruel stuff. I mean, you don't bring up someone like that and just, like, crush their heart in front of you, just say, like, oh, yeah, I can see the person you love anytime you want. I know you can't. Don't worry. I can see anytime I want. It's fucked. That's fucked. Okay, so let's get into the review. I'm sorry, had to talk about the funny stuff, had to talk about the triggering, and also had to talk about, you know, the funny memes and stuff that was made of the flight scene of Beetlejuice, the flying of Beetlejuice, whatever title you want to give it to. So, anyways, talking about the beginning. Subaru, we find out what happens after the events of last week's episode. We know this man died. And I'm glad to see, in a way, Subaru died and wasn't magicked back. For instance, he didn't survive. I'm glad to see he actually died and went back, because it's been a while since we've kind of seen that, but also I am glad to see that there wasn't some form of cop-out to kind of save him at the last minute. I'm kind of glad he died. Now, when it came to him dying, I'll be honest, I was straight up shitting a brick when I thought that Subaru went back to the Apple stand. When I heard, like, you know, hey and all that, boy and all that, I thought that was the Apple stand merch. I'm like, yo, is he literally going back that far? I thought that was going to happen, because I was looking at the episode number, I'm like, this is episode 24. Next week is the final episode. Like, yo, what? Like, what? Is this man going back? I literally, my heart was beating so fast. I'm like, oh my, this is really happening. And then all of a sudden, we see someone freaking bite Subaru's ear. And we see it, that it's Fearless. And I gotta say, if I could hand out awards right now, if I could hand out 2 awards, okay? Award number 1. White Fox. You trolled me. Well done. You get the trolling award of 2016. Definitely, hands down. Number 2. Fearless. Best trap. Best trap. Best trap. Best trap. Best trap. Best trap of all time. All time. Yeah. Best trap all time. That scene. Gotta be honest. Gotta be honest. Best ship. Best ship. Best ship. Better than Beetlejuice X Subaru. Better. Way better. Way better. Best ship. Best ship. Gotta be honest. You just gotta be frank here. Be frank. Best ship. Anyways. Besides that overall, moving on. Subaru learns from his mistakes of his previous life. Now, I've been talking about this. I've been talking about how Subaru has grown past his issues, his problems. But in a way, this episode was different. It was displaying something completely different. Now, we've seen kind of examples of this, but we see it even more to the extreme in this episode. Subaru is now using what he learns with his previous life in his next life. Now, that sounds obvious. That sounds like something you should obviously do when you are someone that could come back from the dead. You could constantly come back and reset in time. It sounds like something you would normally try to do. The big thing is, the Subaru, since he had that type of personality and mentality, the way he acted, he didn't always use logic to always overcome his issues. And we get to see in this episode, after everything that has happened, what he witnessed in last week's episode. In the previous episode, he tackles it from a similar angle, but a little bit different, to where things work out for the better. And he uses everything he's learned to the people that was like a part of the witches cult that was a merchant, to people that was, you know, sending a blank letter, like how he tried to correct the blank letter with Ram, and tried to make it to where everything was fine on that end. And also, he even went as far as to try to correct the issue with the villagers, and how they thought that, you know, Amelia was, you know, pretty much a half-elf, she needs to get the hell out of here and all that. He fixed up that entire issue with them and made it to where they actually care about Amelia a whole lot more after this episode. Overall, Subaru learned a lot from his, 2-episode travels. He learned a lot, and he used all the information he gathered to make this entire new timeline even better. He made everything work out. He corrected the blank letter issue. He corrected the merchant that was spying on everybody and giving information up to Beetlejuice. And then also he was able to handle Beetlejuice. He even brought up the example of how to see the unseen hand for everybody could see it. He even also handled the part about how he could be possessed and how it was whittled down to anyone with the witch's scent could also be possessed. So it's not just the fingers, but anyone with the witch's scent can also be possessed, and Subaru is the reason. That's why Subaru was actually possessed in the first place. So because of this, we have all this information that Subaru gave in this episode to everyone, and it progressed the plot in a way that works out a hell of a lot better than the previous episodes. So I like it how he used everything he learned from the previous episodes to better himself. And actually, he wasn't trying to do it in a stupid way. He wasn't being stupid. He wasn't kind of being brain dead. He legit was learning and able to kind of use logic to the situation. So, very good job, Subaru. Very good job. I mean, I know you progressed a lot as a character to showcase that you have changed. You have matured a lot. I mean, you're still changing. You're still trying to overcome a lot of problems you have. But at the very least, now, you're able to look at things from a critical point of view and able to use logic and apply it. Even though you know what's correct, usually in the past he would let his emotions overcome what he should really do, his actions. And now seeing how he's able to put logic before just, using his emotions to drive him, I love that way this episode kind of is just diving into that, letting us know that Subaru, even though he kind of feels the same way as he used to in the past, he's allowing the best course of action to work out. He's not letting his emotions ruin everything and fuck everything up. Like, the stuff with Julius. I talked about this in last week's episode. See, Subaru, he pushed aside his pride, he pushed aside his emotions, even though he hates the man. He hates Julius after what he's done to him. He respects him. He respects him enough and pushed aside all the feelings he had because he needed to get done what he needed to do to save Amelia, save everybody else, and also keep everybody safe and defeat the witch's cult. So Subaru was able to push aside his emotions for the sake of others, and he didn't let his emotions get in the way. Once again, we see an example of this in this episode, how he allowed his emotions to be pushed to the side before he allowed logic to take course. So, well done, Subaru. Well done. Once again, showcasing your development and how much you continue to improve as a character. Now, getting off of that part, let's move on. So overall, majority of the episode is kind of just correcting the mistakes that Subaru made in the previous episodes. For instance, how, he some parts he didn't really handle it in the proper fashion, or some things he kind of handled it in a different way to where it would work out. Like, for instance, he wouldn't have been able to handle these certain scenes in this episode if he didn't already have prior information. For instance, the stuff with Amelia and how she visited the town the day beforehand, and how he didn't try to cover it up that there's just some form of demons and beasts inside the woods trying to eat them. He didn't try to lie about it. He just straight up said the witch's cult's coming and you all need to evacuate. He didn't try to lie around it. He handled it in a way that only he could handle it in because he had information prior to what just happened in this episode. So good stuff. I'm glad to see he's using his mind and how he corrected pretty much majority of the mistakes that happened. He saved a lot more people, and not many people actually necessarily had to die in this episode, and there wasn't a big ass explosion in the middle of the town as well. Now, talking about the scene with Amelia. So this scene with Amelia, when Subaru pops up with Wilhelm and all of them, and they're just talking to him, or talking to Amelia about the situation of, how they all need to evacuate, we get a little bit more information on the coat that Amelia wore a while back. So apparently this coat removes your appearance. For instance, you can't actually see who it is. You don't know who it is when they wear this coat on their head and all that. So Subaru was able to disguise himself to where Amelia couldn't see who he was, couldn't realize or recognize who he was, so he's able to hide and meet Amelia. Even though, Amelia didn't want to see him, he shouldn't be back right now. We know about all the promises he's made, so he hid himself where he wouldn't cause any issues for her, and so she didn't know he was even there in the first place. She probably kind of recognized something because of the coat and all that. It seemed like she kind of realized, but overall, though, Subaru, he took the very selfless route. He actually allowed everything to work out, and he didn't get any praise for it, which is completely different from what he has done in the past. And once again, this goes back to his character development. Let's think about what type of character Subaru was when the series began. he was a character that believed he was a main character, that, you know, everything is working out like you would see in a traditional person gets dragged into, you know, a fantasy world. He thought he was going to have a power, he thought he was going to be the hero. And as the personality of Subaru, he was the type of person that realized, like, I'm the hero, I should be praised, I should get the praise for everything that he does. Like, that's how he felt. That's kind of what type of character he was and what drove him in the first half of the series. And in this episode, it's completely different. He's calmed down, he's mellowed out, and he's not the type of person now that needs all the praise. He's now fighting for noble goals. He's not just doing it for himself. Because if this would have been the old Subaru in this episode, he would have never have wanted to hide his face. He never wanted to be someone that didn't get any praise at all. Because if this would have been the old Subaru, this man would have legit said, oh, it's my actions that caused Amelia to be saved, and everybody in the town to be saved. He would want to be praised. He would want to be the hero. He would want someone to just be happy with him. But he doesn't need that. He now knows what he needs to do. He doesn't need the praise, and he put Amelia before him. He allowed her to get the praise. He allowed her to be happy. He allowed her to be respected by the towns, the citizens. And this is a very good move from Subaru's part, because one of the big things that Amelia faces as a potential ruler is that her citizens don't really like her. And the reason for this is what I discussed last week, is because she's a half-elf, and with her presence being there, that means eventually the witch's cult is going to attack and then kill innocent people, which we saw in last week's episode. And it's because Amelia being there. She's a half-elf. She has white hair. And because of this, not many people are going to like her. And then there's a lot of prejudice as well, because a lot of the world was destroyed by the Witch of Envy. So, thinking about all of this type of information, it makes so much sense why nobody likes her. And the way Subaru placed her in front of himself and allowed her to get all the praise and allowed her to kind of be respected more by the villagers, it sets her up as a better ruler. It allows her to have the people actually care about her, especially the children scene. The children scene was a very powerful moment, which I don't think is going to have many people really looking into. Like, not many people are going to look at that scene and think it weighs a lot, like it has a lot of impact. But I feel like out of all the scenes in this episode, besides the vessel type stuff, that was probably the most impactful scene of the episode of ReZero. This episode, episode 24, because when Amelia, she's sitting there and she realizes the kids are going to be in the same, like, you know, cart with her, she's like, no, the kids shouldn't be with me. Like, no, they shouldn't, because she instantly realizes that many people are going to like her, because, you know, I've said prejudice and stuff like that, and she's the reason why they even have to evacuate in the first place. And the way the kids were talking, the way, you know, Subaru, even though she didn't know it was Subaru, and he brought up and just started talking, the way the conversation was done, he was allowing it to where it was said that the kids would respect Amelia. They care about her, and she doesn't need to try to be away from them. They actually care about Amelia, and they care about Subaru. And so Subaru set it up to where Amelia is forming a relationship with the villagers, and she needs to be a little bit more confident in herself and not feel like everybody despises her just for her blood, for who she is. So this episode did a very good job to showcasing that Subaru allowed Amelia to get more respect and allowed himself to be placed behind Amelia and allow her to get the credit, and he didn't want to get all the praise like he normally would in the past. So very beautiful scene. I love the scene a lot, especially with the way the Amelia got happy and she was, you know, going to travel with the kids. So, moving past that, let's talk about the big beef, the big stuff that happened in this episode. Beetlejuice reveals the goal of the witch's cult. Now, I've speculated about this already in a video. Actually, I have. If you have not seen my video, I made a video, Fury Crafting, on what is Satala, the Witch of Envy's true goal, motive. I made a video, and as I've said, I'm anime only. I have not read the light novel, because I can't. There's no freaking translations. There's no translations to the web novel, so if I could, honestly, I would have already read it. I will be straight up honest with you, but I can't because no translations. So right now I'm an anime only, sadly, but I made a little bit of guesses and theories on maybe the true motive of Satala, the Witch of Envy. And I mentioned that maybe Satala's, you know, slowly breaking out of her seal. Because every time, you know, Subaru uses Return by Death and he tries to talk to the witch, you see it to where she pops up right behind him. And more features of her are popping up as he continues to use Return by Death. So because of this, I made a theory saying maybe because this, like, portal thing is opening up behind Subaru, maybe it's eventually going to allow her to break out and escape, and then eventually start ruling the world once again or something. Now, I also talked about how Embiez is connected somehow to Satala, and this makes a lot of sense with that entire sealed theory. What if Satla, since we now know that the reason why the witch's cult wants to do an ordeal with Amelia is because they wanted to transfer Amelia, or the witch, into Amelia'S body, which they point blank stated like she is a potential vessel, because she looks so much like her, and also if she can, overcome this ordeal, she has a worthy enough body to have Satla be reincarnated into. So this explains the entire relationship that Amelia has with the witch. For instance, Amelia is a potential vessel for the witch to come back. And also, this explains why they look so similar, in a way. So I like how this was dived into, and also it explains Beetlejuice's reaction in last week's episode. Remember, as I stated, when Beetlejuice saw, Amelia for the first time, he looked like he saw God itself. Like, he literally saw God. Like, his religion, he's like, I see my love, my God. That's how he looked. And now it explains so much. When he was looking at Amelia'S body, he realized that that was the body of potentially his lover, someone he loves, the Witch of Envy. So there you go. That is why he acted like he did. Why he was so happy is because he actually got to see the person he cares about, someone he loves. So yeah, cool stuff right there. Those little details that were added in this episode. So that's kind of fucked up now that you think about it. It's really fucked up. And it also kind of makes me question, why would the witch harm Amelia'S body? If you remember a while back, when Subaru tried to say something by return by death, Amelia died. She got killed because Subaru tried to say something. And if Amelia legit is the vessel, maybe it makes you wonder, like, why would she harm her own potential vessel? Unless it was some form of ordeal to unbreaking the seal, like to break the seal for Satla can escape. Because look, the witch's cult is putting Amelia through an ordeal right now, and she needs to succeed for she can become a vessel for the Witch of Envy. So what if Subaru causing Amelia to be killed was another way to unlock the seal as well? And that's why when you saw the hand pop up and start to rub Subaru's heart, it was because the witch was happy with him, because he's fulfilling the ordeals that Amelia needs to go through. She needs to go through this for she can be transferred into that body. That's a potential possibility if you think about it. What if that needed to be done to unlock the seal? There's probably certain restrictions and certain things you have to do to be able to break the seal, probably very complicated, and that is why probably Satla is very happy when she says I love you or something, when she rubs his heart, because you have it to where he is doing certain ordeals he needs to go through, and also Amelia needs to go through for she can transfer into her body. So yeah, that's the big beef of this, episode, actually. We just get the plot, like the real goal of the witch's cult's real motive, what they've been trying to do. They're just allowing Amelia to go through this ordeal, and if she survives it, she will become a vessel. If she can survive it and overcome this, she is the vessel. So obviously, Amelia is going to overcome this, let's just be honest here. So that would mean that in the likely future, Satla, the Witch of Envy, will be reincarnated in the body of Amelia. That's going to be pretty fucked up. That's going to be really fucked up. I wonder what type of complications that's going to add. I mean, if you think about it, holy fuck. So, yeah, that's another thing, too. This brings up something very interesting, which kind of makes me want to theorycraft a bit. Yes, I don't theorycraft much when it comes to these reviews, but you know what? I want to do it real quick. What if, okay, since we know that Satla is cursed, okay, cursed Subaru, he's cursed to be returned by death, he constantly comes back, well, we know this, okay, we know he's cursed, and then it was because of Satla. We don't know the exact reason, or how the whole mechanics of return by death works, we've talked about this, but don't you guys find it odd? Don't you find it odd at all that Amelia, half-elf, white hair, pretty much looks like Satla? Don't you find it odd that Subaru fell in love with her when he was cursed by someone that looks very similar to her? Think about it. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm a Rim fan. I'm not. Just hear me out. I love Rim. My favorite female character of this series. To be honest. But I'm not saying it because of that. I'm just saying, like, what if the curse had more curse applied to it? Like, what if the reason why Subaru loves Amelia so much is because her body looks so similar to the Witch of Envy, Satla? Now, as we know, Satla and Amelia look very similar. We know that Beetlejuice has a lot of love. A lot of love for the witch. So, what if Subaru, because he's cursed, what if he has this affection for Amelia, it's because of the curse that the witch gave him? And that's the emotions he feels. Maybe. I could be going too far here, but maybe the curse has something to do with that. I want to leave it there for now. Overall, getting into the last part of the episode, we have the stuff with Julius. So Julius, he is able to fight Beetlejuice. He's able to fight this man and actually see through Subaru's eyes, which explains a scene in last week's episode, because there was a scene when Subaru was opening up his eyes and you saw, like, this darkness. There was one quick scene in last week's episode. It was around, I think, after the merchant, blew himself up. You had to where Subaru was opening his eyes, you saw the darkness start popping up on his eyelids, and now we know why it probably looked like that. You had it to where probably Julius was watching through Subaru's eyes, and that is why it looked like it did. So, there we go. That was kind of hinted at last week, but now we know that the reason how Julius is able to see the unseen hand is thanks to Subaru. He's seeing through his eyes to be able to overcome Beetlejuice's invisible hands that constantly try to kill people. Now, the fight overall, I love the final conclusion of this episode. Subaru's just point and blank about to kill this man. He brings him back to the place where Subaru took his life willingly. There was the only time throughout the series to where Subaru willingly took his life. He willingly ended himself. It was the only time, and he brought Beetlejuice back to this point to where Subaru could fight this man and kill him with Julius's help. Now, the conversation between Julius and Subaru, I love that. It was true acceptance, and also, even though Subaru hates this man with a passion, he just straight up hates this man, he was able to push that aside and at the very least accomplish what he needs to do, which I've already covered in this episode review. So, Subaru, showing maturity once again. He's fighting Beetlejuice, about to take him down. Can Beetlejuice survive this, or will Subaru's body be taken over? That's a big question. Now, we do know that the entire topic of possession was brought up. Subaru did mention it, so maybe there's some form of failsafe, or maybe, they had a conversation about maybe Julius can, counteract, Beetlejuice's possession after he dies. Because, think about it. We do know, Julius uses spirits, and he can, press, like, spirits into some other people, for instance, what he did to Subaru in last week's episode. So there might be a possibility, since he knows there could be something that could happen with Beetlejuice after he dies, and he moves into another body, he might know that, Beetlejuice might go into Subaru's body, and he might be able to fight against it, for that might not happen to him. So, I feel like something like that might happen. I can't wait to see what's going to happen after this point, though, because a lot of setup with this episode. Can't wait to see what happens, to see how strong Julius is, but he's pretty damn powerful from what we've seen from this episode alone. Can't wait to see how he fights him. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day, or night, wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.